What up, guys? Camila here, and this is the story of how I finally said no to saying no, which is a weird way of saying that I learned how to say yes. It was autumn in New York, and I was going through a rough patch. I was in my hotel room, sitting on the bed, and I was staring at something that was resting on the dresser. It was this picture of me as a young girl, and I'm smiling in it, and I'm probably 5 or 6 years old. And that picture had kind of a special meaning for me. I looked so just kind of innocently happy in that picture, and it made me feel like, oh, I gotta watch out for that girl. It was a way of connecting with my journey and where I've come from. But as I sat there, I wasn't connecting with anything. I was in a state of pretty intense anxiety. Later that night, I was performing on Saturday Night Live. And I was so anxious about the performance, on top of the anxiety I was already feeling, I didn't think I'd even be able to leave the hotel room. This was a phase of my life when everything was moving really fast. I had a ton going on, and everything felt way too super important. My schedule was packed, I was finishing my album, and I was dating Sean for the first time. I was so in love with him that it was actually terrifying. I wasn't getting enough rest, let alone self-care. I didn't know how to say, hang on guys, I need a day off. But what's so weird, and maybe it's not even weird, I guess it's just anxiety, is where the anxiety took my mind. Before I started meditating, I was prone to, like I've said before, dramatics. I would take the slightest negative thought and my mind would run wild with stories and scenarios. And I'm not talking about Shakespeare in the Park type of drama. I'm talking about a low-budget Cuban telenovela mixed with an end-of-the-world sci-fi film. Over-the-top inner drama happening in my head, non-stop. A lot of the time, this would start with a what-if scenario. Just a little seed of anxiety or insecurity, and that seed would grow into this very unpleasant, giant forest of nightmares that was paralyzing. When I was meeting up with Sean, my mind would go, what if we run out of things to talk about, and I ruin it, and I lose the love of my life? Before a writing session with a talented producer, it would be, what if I bomb it and they think I'm useless and it's the end of everything? And the craziest was that performance on Saturday Night Live. The scenario in my mind was, what if I forget the lyrics on live television? Now I have to explain something. By the time a singer is performing a song on SNL, you've performed it hundreds of times. At least hundreds. You know the words better than the national anthem, better than your own name. And there aren't that many words in a song, so what are the chances you're gonna forget any of them? This was my mind going to some very irrational places. But it was a time when I didn't have the tools to trust myself with my own emotions. I don't know how, but I managed to get through the performance on SNL. Actually, my manager said it was one of my best shows ever. But I felt like I was barely holding it together before I went on stage. Beyonce says that nerves are energy. I guess I found a way to channel all my anxious energy into my performance. A short while later, I discovered meditation, and my practices created a whole new relationship with my emotions. What I was doing that night in New York was shutting down my emotional reality. I was scared to experience my own emotions because they felt so intense. But mindfulness is teaching me that emotions aren't something I need to solve or overthink my way out of. They're something I need to feel. They're a totally normal, super predictable part of being human. And that's great news because my anxiety made me feel really weird sometimes. When it's raining outside, your instinct isn't to alleviate the rain. When there's a downpour, just grab a book and snuggle in a nook. Ooh, that just rhymed. Or get an umbrella and go for a stroll. Same with emotions. However I'm feeling is how I'm feeling. So instead of shutting it down or being scared of it, I'm learning how to say yes. If I'm anxious before a performance, I just acknowledge it. Okay, looks like I'm feeling a bit of anxiety because this performance is really important to me. If I'm nervous before hanging out with new people, I'm just like, all right, I'm in a room full of people I don't know, and I'm feeling a little uncomfortable and insecure. When you allow yourself to feel however you're feeling, the good news is, it fades. That's the thing. When a kid is scared that there's a monster in her bedroom, all you gotta do is flick on the lights, and the fear disappears. It's not a monster, it's A teddy bear on a pile of laundry that's kinda lumpy, with like a giant hat on top that made it seem especially scary in the dark. That's all we're doing here, folks. Just flicking on the lights and realizing, oh yeah, that's just my old tendency to catastrophize when I'm nervous. All good. Sometimes the mind is gonna say, what if it's a disaster? Okay, mind. But what if it's not? What if this is just a very human experience of being anxious when something counts? What if your fears are overblown and the monster is just a teddy bear with a giant hat on some lumpy laundry? Thanks for listening to this one. This is Camila, and I hope the next time you're going through some stuff, you'll flick on the lights and just say yes to however you're feeling.